discord is between that and that. I mean, that we have to deal with the laws on our planet with that person, so they're not gonna get away, free and clear with what they've done.
They don't teach you this stuff. This is why the world is so separated, because there's a group of people who know all of these hidden things about the universe. Obviously, we talk about a cult being that's what it means, hidden. A cult is another word for hidden. It's not another word for Satan or evil or bad. It's simply another word for hidden. And these people operate with they know these karmic laws. They know what's going on. So I guess, and I wrote a whole Substack about this sort of thing where I basically just said, you can hate the sin with everything you've got, you can name the crime, you can demand the justice, you can protect the innocent, but at the end of the day, just refuse to let the poison change who you are, because if hatred is the price of winning, then ultimately we didn't really win anything. And I still believe that, and that's why I'm here, basically because I believe that if we keep echoing this same thing, we're going to become this. And this is why the world isn't changing. It's like they say, abuse people, hurt people, hurt people. It's the same cycle, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what worries me about that is then that then gives abused people free license to go around abusing other people with that kind of outlook. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of justice in the world when you just hug thy enemy kind of thing. I understand what you're saying. I do get it, and I think forgiveness personally is for yourself. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the person that you're forgiving, because if you don't forgive within yourself all that person's deeds towards you, then you're going to hold on to that. That's baggage that you're going to carry around. So why would you allow that power to remain with the person that's victimizing you? You wouldn't. You take that power off them, and then that's why forgiveness is for you, not them. Whether they're going to repent or not is that's their fucking problem. They're going to have to deal with their own conscience with that. But I mean, if they've got no conscience, which some people just haven't, they're just perpetual evildoers, then I'm sorry, but you show your colours over and over and over again. You show no sign of repenting. Then it's time to flip the tables. It's time for some divine retribution. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is the only way that it brings back balance, because there are evil fucking people out there.
We demand, yeah, we can demand that justice, and I'm a big justice person. I always have been a big justice person. When something's not fair or not not quite right, I'm the person that stands up and says, "Hey, you can't do that. This is fucked up. This is wrong." And I'm watching this happen right now with New Zealand essentially giving $15 million to Ukraine. That's been announced today, which is absolutely ridiculous of our taxpayer money. And I'm like, no, this is fucked up. Like, young people can't afford houses, and here you are putting $15 million to Ukraine, like up Zelensky's nose.
Go Alpha.
Hey, before I get on to this other topic, Pepe, did you create the Pepe because of like the Donald on Reddit or Nick Fuentes Groiper, or when you're wrestling with this Pepe cheek identity, were you like a MAGA patriot from 2016 onwards, and now you're wrestling with it and the Charlie Kirk moment, or just
Yeah.
just help me fill in a few blanks?
So my history is very interesting, and I probably won't actually speak about it too much in this. I'll try not to speak about it too much in this space, simply because I'm trying to keep a level of anonymous of who I am and what I actually do. But basically, I have been involved in politics, particularly USA politics, for a very long time, maybe 10 or so years. And around 2017, there was a movement, and you probably know about it, the Q movement, right? I was one of the anons who was on 4chan in the slash poll boards and following along with the QAnon stuff. And I think ultimately that led to me questioning a lot of things. Whether you believe QAnon is real or not, actually, what that did was it started getting the wheels turning, thinking about who really runs the world, who are these people, thinking about why we're even here to begin with. So yeah, I then so for years I've followed the Q movement, And so that's where the Pepe thing comes from, because for me it's anonymous, it's an anonymous identity. Although, you know, my real name is Kayla, I don't hide that. But yeah, so that's where Pepe comes from. Recently we've had Nick Fuentes, who's come out and he's had the groypers, and somehow this Pepe has been a groyper thing. And the funny thing about that was, I actually resonate a lot with Nick Fuentes and the Gropers, because ultimately I do believe that there is a common theme happening with the people that we are questioning, and it's time to notice that yes, in fact, majority of them are all Jewish. And that's just a fact. And I went back, yeah, so I've been researching a lot of, I guess, truth movement stuff for a very long time, and I actually, I'm part of some other pieces of work and projects, um, citizen journalist related things, and probably some big pages that you know about, some big groups that you've heard about. But I just sort of, I've always been in the background, I guess you could say, just because I don't really want to be known. But it's gotten to the point for me where I'm like, I've got to do something. I've got to start speaking. I've got to start standing up for myself and standing up for the country, because I actually believe that we're heading in a really dark place.
Can I just quickly invite you? I want to create a more formal debate night series, like you, Freemasonry, Aussie Crusader, me, Hitman, have a bit more structured debate. I think X Space could be a really big deal if we treat it a bit more prim and proper and actually invite sitting members of parliament, senators. And if you got to be able to do a stump speech in a pub, you should be able to do a stump speech on an X Space, as long as
My country's politics. It's not that entertaining, but I can talk on a little bit of what it's been like behind the scenes, throughout all of this. You've heard of General Michael Flynn, right?
yeah, yep. But thank you for your interest in that. I'm just going to keep hitting people up. And on that point, Freemasonry might be able to do a little 5-minute demonstration with you and me, and we can do that for 5 or 10, and then we'll go back to normal chat. I can just get mute up. But yeah, carry on about Flynn.
Oh, I was just asking, like, I'm trying to figure out where you guys are at, because there's a lot here. So that's why I'm like, do you know about Flynn? Do you know about the Q movement? What do you know about? But yeah, so Freemasonry, your name is interesting, and I think we could have a lot of fun things to talk about. I'm actually, I dig down into that level, and yeah.
Do you know what was suspect about Michael Flynn? I mean, I think there's a few things that are suspect about him, but one of them was he still had all his security clearances all the way through the reign of the Biden administration. And we got Joe Biden up here now. We can clarify that by giving thumbs up. But you know, how would that be possible? How could a proper enemy of Joe Biden's fucking cabinet? How could he possibly still keep his security clearances? That doesn't make sense. The first thing he would have done is stripped away any security clearance away from that enemy.
Testing, just checking
Well,
that
it's,
my
you know,
mic works.
Hitman, yeah, we've got you.
Cool.
Hitman, it's not that hard for you to fake. I mean, as long as you just sing the same song and tune, they don't really know what's going on between the wet ears, they don't know what's going on between your ears,
It's a highly compartmentalized area. But I think overall, I've been following General Flynn for a long time, and yeah, overall, his message is very clear. But there is one thing that concerns me, is I have heard him on many occasions talk about the idea of Judeo-Christian, and I am not a fan of anyone who brings up Judeo-Christian. I think that's absolute bullshit. We know, well, I know the founding fathers were um, not. They had nothing to do with that kind of thing. So I'm just like, why would you do that? Why would you do so? From a perspective of Q and the movement, there are a lot of Q proofs out there. But what does that actually mean? Does it actually mean that there is an intelligence operation, and what was its purpose? I believe that its purpose was simply to actually channel the energy that was around at the time into something valuable, and that's all I think it was. Because there were a lot of people who were starting back in especially 2017 to think about, okay, so Hillary Clinton and her crimes against children. What was that about? You know, they were starting to think about these things. They had nowhere to go. They had no channel. And I believe that what Q did was pulled together all of these different people and gave them a collective movement, and that turned into what we have today, which is some interesting people that talk about Q right now. So I don't know what your
Okay,
perspective
I'm,
is.
I'm sorry to do this to you. I'm going to have to put in the word Hillary Clinton and her alleged crimes in Minecraft, allegedly in a script I'm writing, because her
Hillary
lawyers
Clinton's a
are worth way
pedophile.
more than my lawyers. But I think we know what you mean. Pointing to headlines in the news about alleged crimes of Hilldog, if you follow what I'm saying. So now
But
we've got,
on that, can I just have
yeah,
a quizzer on the whole Q thing? So I mean, on the Q thing, I mean, like you
I'm
say,
never
they
gonna
pulled a
be able to
whole heap
fucking
of people
talk.
together, right? And one of the main messages that kind of sent alarm bells ringing for me in the early days was,
Oh, this is
basically
funny.
sit on your ass and enjoy the show.
I'm just
Trust the
fucking
plan.
just sitting in a
And
room
as soon as you
full of
start seeing
crazy
messaging like
people.
that,
What
then
the
that's an
fuck?
instant red flag. You don't tell people to sit on their ass and just trust the plan. And then they ran it like a computer game. The whole thing was obviously scripted from a computer game, and it was to keep people occupied, with all of this, kind of disclosure and. Hey, but we'll give you all this disclosure about these dumps. But you know what? You're not going to see any of it on the mainstream media. It's all going to happen in secrecy. And we're going to get rid of all these dumbs, and then we'll let you know, because you know what, the people just aren't ready for the truth right now. I mean, this kind of messaging, seriously, if you're going to, with the most utmost respect, if you're going to fall for that kind of messaging, and then that's crazy. That's
I
crazy.
think
I
you
mean,
said
and
it.
not just that, you're also
Yeah.
bypassing any kind of resemblance of democracy. So as long as it's your guy that is delivering the justice, then you're then permitting that guy or that group of people to then do things in the background in secrecy, and then to not be transparent with the public. Now, the number one rule of politics is supposed to be transparent, and this is the complete opposite of transparency. This is literally saying, trust us, we're going to do the right thing. And because you're also conservatives like us, and you see all of these problems, then don't worry, we're going to win this fight against the evildoers. Well, what about all the people that have got different political opinions to you? Isn't that what democracy is about? Aren't we supposed to kind of decide where we're going to meet kind of halfway with certain subjects? And it bypasses
Yeah.
all of that. And for that reason, I could never ever be behind a movement like this.
True. And look, I'll echo that and I'll say you've got a very good point there. And that's why I wouldn't say I'm part of the movement now, because I feel like the movement ended a long time ago. You know, I got what I needed out of it, which was ultimately discernment. The one thing I learned was discernment. I was looking at these things, I was following the crumbs, following, the bread, and I was deciphering what was going on in the world. And that was enough for me to learn to think for myself. A lot of people, they did take this cult like mentality to Q, but I don't think that was the point of it. They took a cult like mentality and they're still here to this day, being like, trust the plan, patriots are in control. I don't believe in that. In my opinion, a lot of politicians are bought and owned, and I don't trust a damn politician. I don't care if you're Trump, I don't care who you are. I'm going to look at your actions. So, yeah, you've got a really good point there, but Q did teach us about discernment, and I think a lot of people got carried away, and in that cult like mentality. But a lot of what you're seeing in the news today, a lot of things that have surfaced, us Q people who are following all along in 2017, we've already seen this.
Jeez.
We already knew about Jeffrey Epstein before any news came out about that. We knew a lot of probably what's going to happen or what is to come in the future. We'll see if the Patriots really are in control, right? If Trump is going to do anything. At this point, I've lost a lot of faith in Donald Trump, and the reason why is because I saw an overall theme of him supporting Israel. And that's what he's done. He's signed two executive orders now against anti Semitism. And bombing Iran, well, the airstrikes against Iran is certainly not the way to go, is it? So yeah, that's just what I think. I think, there are some crazy, they're the real Q-tards out there, right? But you sort of got to know that everyone who follows Q are not going to be one of those Q-tards that are just sitting back and not doing anything. There are actually people out there that are more proactive about it, and they're getting into politics now. So yeah.
Doesn't one last thing. I know this hands up, but it's just very, very quick. And that doesn't make sense. Q plus is supposed to be Donald Trump. Seriously, I mean, Q plus, you've been going on saying this is Donald Trump for years, and all of a sudden it's like you don't trust Donald Trump, but you trust all the information that they've been giving you via Q. Anyway, I think Jenny was next, and then
I
Freemason.
think the Q yeah, I think the Q plus thing was like a side conspiracy to the conspiracy, but what I did wanna comment on is how the mainstream, media, legacy media handled it. So Q, made upwards of 5,000 posts during the time that the entity was posting. The mainstream media didn't mention Q or QAnon or anything like that for, uh, the whole time, basically. It wasn't until Q basically stopped posting that the legacy media brought it out, did special after special, extended special, different little segments in their news programs. Um, Not just talking about Q, they were calling it QAnon, which wasn't what it was called, but the other thing is that they were lumping a whole bunch of other conspiracy sort of threads under QAnon, what they were calling QAnon. And so it was their way of bastardizing conspiracy theorists. And I thought that that was pretty interesting that, Q was on so many people's radar for 3 or more years and nothing was mentioned in mainstream media. It wasn't until it was convenient for them in discrediting other things that they actually brought it up. That was all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, there wasn't people who were actually part of it to begin with. I'm thinking back to the boards. There
Never gonna
really,
have
it wasn't
a
really a
never gonna
big
have a
thing.
combo.
So I couldn't see why they would need to draw attention to it. But it was consistently attacked throughout, yeah, mostly 2018, 2019. Oh, it's still being attacked now to
Right
this
before
day.
the election,
Yes, yeah.
basically, to discredit all Trump supporters, any right-leaning libertarians, any, Democrats who were starting to wake up to some of the things that were going on. They were like, quick, we need to do damage control on this. Because there were elements that, like you said, we
Fucking
were
get
shown
me with this
things that
shit,
the
man.
public actually saw years later. Like when they started releasing Epstein stuff, I was like, well, we've seen this.
Oh,
We
this
we
is
saw
so
the
good.
unredacted stuff that wasn't blacked out at all. And so, yeah, it just
I'm gonna
seemed really
trigger
odd and
so many
convenient to me
fucking
that
people.
they took the movement and the entity that was making those posts and used it for many targets. That was very suspicious to me and lended a bit of credibility, but I think overall it was very distracting to people. Um, but I followed along. I wouldn't say I was a devotee, but I was following and reading.
You've heard of the Bolsheviks revolution, right? So you're aware that they ran not exactly the same because of
The
technology, obviously, but they ran a
Bolsheviks.
very similar campaign during that revolution. And the whole messaging was exactly the same. It was basically trust the plan, stay at home. And that's what they did to a lot of Russian patriots that didn't want communism to come through. They didn't want that takeover. So they brainwashed them all to sit back and trust the plan. The white hats are going to save the day. And the messaging was virtually identical to the Q psyop. So again, there's so many holes in this that once you find that many holes in something, then you've got to disregard everything at that point. You can't have that many red flags and then say, well, let's still trust 80% of it. We'll disregard 20% of it because that's convenient for us to do. That's the whole point of a good psyop. A really, really good psyop is designed in a way where they're going to give you 80% truth and they're going to give you 20% lies. So they're going to disclose all the things they want to disclose. And then you're going to be like, yeah, we got faith in this movement because they're telling us the truth. We can cross-reference and verify the information. So they must be a truthful organization. This has got to be for good. And then the 20% lies, that's where they've got you. That's the point. They want you to believe the 20% lies. It's nothing to do with the 80% truth. So anyway, I'll land on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally
Oh my
agree with
gosh,
you,
no,
but
shut
I
up.
can say that I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump is Q plus because we've seen time and time again proofs. And remember that one time that someone said in the boards, I was there, they said, say tippy top then, and in one of his
Yes, I
appearances he
remember.
said exactly, oh, you could say this is tippy top, and that to me, like, that was one thing, but we've had multiple now that could say that. So if we're assuming that this is true, we're assuming, yeah, Donald Trump may be Q plus, then we're assuming that Donald Trump is also part of the plan to pacify people. And I don't know. I'm still, honestly, I have supported Donald Trump, even though I'm not American. I've supported Donald Trump for a very long time because I believed, like, a lot of other Q people, that he could potentially save what humanity. He could save us from, everything that's resulted in history, which is, to be quite honest, the Jews.
What
Like,
the
I don't know how
fuck
else to
is
put it.
going on?
But it seems that, like I said, there are some questionable things that he's doing at the
The
moment, and a
Jews.
lot of people want to
Just
chalk it
say this
down,
from
and
the Jews.
they want to say this is 4D chess. No, this is 5D chess. No, this is 6D chess. And I'm thinking, well, I
Yeah,
mean, it
2 you're
could be,
thinking,
but
"Yep, 2 more weeks, 2 more
2
weeks."
more weeks, 5 more weeks. So, like, and then it's the same thing when you think about Donald Trump right now. They're like, "Oh, he's only
This
been
just
in
seems like
office
a
for, at
therapy
first it was
session.
1 month. At first it was 2 months, it was 3
It's just a
months, it was
fucking
6 months,
therapy session.
he's only been in office for
Why
this
did I
long.
come to
So
this?
that's essentially why I wouldn't say that I'm the same as a lot of the other Q people, is because I wasn't pacified by this movement. It actually benefited me in many ways because for once I had a community. Think about going through COVID completely alone. I was completely alone.
Oh
I
my
knew
god,
absolutely no one
shut
in my
up.
area who questioned the vaccine or questioned COVID or was even awake to big pharma at the time. So I was going through this all alone. So it gave me a community. And I guess I'm always thankful for that. So that's why I can't really hate the Q movement or diss the Q movement because I think it served a purpose for me. I don't know where you guys stand on vaccines, but they're bullshit.
Now's a good time for me to jump in. Now, Hitman, you claim you're co-host of the year 2 years running. You didn't see the host's hand up for a solid 10 minutes
Oh,
there,
okay,
bruh.
yes.
So sometimes I wonder about you.
I didn't see any hands up either. I actually think that
Me
sometimes X
neither.
doesn't show you.
That's all right. Now we've got a
You
few
know,
bits of
Alfie.
admin.
That's I was waiting for my phone. Alfie, I'll worry about you sometimes, bro.
You see, the fishing sometimes takes a while. No, I was just teasing you a bit. Anyway, bits of admin are. I do have a view on the Q stuff as well, but what's his name? Freemasonry's here to have a random pop-up 5-minute flash debate, like a flash mob, and we're not sure what the topic is. So think about the
It'll be the
topic for a
golden
minute.
age, mate. It'll be the golden age.
Freemasonry.
That's what the Freemasons on this platform are doing right now. They're promoting the golden age, bro.
To
That's
be
their main objective.
to be
Okay,
clear,
okay, we could.
the name has nothing to do with anything. I just think that
We,
it relates to my actual name, and I just think they're kind of a fascinating thing. So
so
please, any
can I
like,
just
s-
hang on?
yep, yep.
I gotta get this out because I'm distracted. So what I want to do while Freemasonry is thinking about what topic he wants, I want to just read through the nest items as
Topic
well.
I want.
So we've got here the Host of the Year awards. There's
Oh my
27
god.
Australian hosts listed.
To
Reptiles
be
at the
clear,
top
this guy is like
and
really up
Kyla's at the
himself.
bottom and
This
everyone in between. So
alpha
you got to
guy.
DM me your
He's like,
winner, and
his
I'm going to
name's
do like
Kurt.
an old school first past the post straw poll because that
He's
allows
really
the
up
person at
himself
the
on this
bottom
whole X
to
space shit.
technically beat the person at the top if enough straw polling comes through. So I don't want it. They're ranked by average listeners, but I want anyone to be able to win. And I realized just having a dictatorship straw poll actually achieves that outcome, like a pancake model of decision making, if you know what that means. The other item up there, we're talking about sustainability, and I think it was Pepe Frog said, Pepe Chica said that the children aren't being educated by about these civics enough. And I put there, if your plan is for 1 year, plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, educate children. So the point of the reptile school, I'm going to model Grover's enthusiasm, and we're going to teach each other stuff. Um, and on that point, Chris Coveries has summarized 30,000 words of nationalist protesting speech and put it into a single infographic or meme, a meme, whether you're a nationalist or a civnat. And that's a topic that Freemasonry might want to discuss on the left there. And to circle back to Q drops, I agree with you, Hitman. They are a psyop to control the containment right. It's so that you sit there and do nothing. And, Bossy in Australia, his A1 party is the Q drop, the boomer Q tard market. However, if Pepe Chique has picked up some skills and some friendships from the Q movement, well, that's actually the true resistance shining through. And I'll say this, that's in spite of the Q-tards, not because of it. So even if the Q-tards brought you together, you will win in spite of it, not because of it, if that makes any sense. So I'll land on that, and I'll see what Freemasonry wants to talk about.
Well, yeah, cheers, bro. What was the thing that you said that I might be interested in talking about? I literally blanked right
World
on that.
domination and
On
the
the
golden age, bro.
on the left of the nest is the nationalism, the NatSoc, National Socialist neo-Nazis want race to be an issue, like
Ethnostate,
DNA in
yeah.
the soil, versus the CivNat on the right. It's about the numbers and a purity test, which could be just the content of your character. Should you be Aussie citizen because you feel Aussie, or do you want to be Aussie citizen because your blood is in the soil Aussie?
Right, well, I mean, well, for one, of course, the ethno-nationalists are also doing their own version of a purity test. They're just a bit more, well, that, eugenics. Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, that sounds like an okay topic. I find it more interesting when someone, for example, will give me like their thought and then I can like respond to that. I find it a bit awkward starting it off, if that makes sense.
Well, I can tell you that I was tempted by the blood in the soil, the neo-Nazi stuff, until it turned out that they were all going to deport me from my own nation because my great-grandfather might be quarter Jewish and I'm 8%, and then they're like, you're out. So now I don't like them and I'm on the right side as a civnat. So that's my sort of stake in the game, and it is biased because they're trying to kill me and I'm not trying to kill them. So that's
Oh,
how I run it.
yep, okay. I can see if me and you in particular are doing the sort of back and forth, I can see sort of where we can take this convo. I guess what I would want to say first to you is like, or any other civnats or self-identifying civnats. I guess all I would want to say is like, um, not so much, hey, just drop the whole anti-migration, anti-mass migration issue or whatever. Not to necessarily say that, but considering everything that's been happening over the past, let's just say, month in Australian sort of politics of that stuff. Uh, I- do you really feel confident that you're going to persuade any more people to the Civnat side as opposed to them persuading people to the ethno-nationalist side? Hello?
Well, who's persuading? What do you mean? Based on what action?
Like among people who are, let's just say people who are like, oh yeah, this is an issue I care about. I care, I want Australia to be Australia again, but they haven't really, sussed out their specifics on their approach. They're literally just coming into it. Maybe they've literally just seen a meme.
I think you're asking, is the March for Australia movement actually very effective? Because these so-called leaders like Beck, Freedom and Jesse, when I talk to them in a room full of nat socks, they just turn into foaming at the mouth, rabid fucking neo-Nazis, and they kick me out because I say I'm 8% Jewish. And then they act all lovey-dovey in public, and then they go psycho in private.
Well,
So that's my issue with them.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole like go and mask off thing. But
And
that's
they kicked me out, bro. I mean, they kicked me out the same chance. I've lived in Australia for 20 fucking years. You know, I was the only British immigrant actually to be on the speaker panel. And it's like, oh, I don't like your ideas. Booting me out. Not even part of the conversation, mate.
Yeah, there you go. So these people can't be trusted to manage government, let alone even manage the rally to have the fucking government.
so you'll definitely get like when it comes to who I would like in that specific statement you just said there, like yeah, sure, I definitely agree with that. I'm more so getting at is what do you think you and other civnats ultimately will be able to do
So
to
I guess
convince
for the
people to
purpose
your
of,
side?
for, yeah, for the
He's
purpose of
asking
the
what is
room,
nationalism.
we,
I mean,
we
is that
can,
not the core of your question? What is nationalism?
No,
yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to lean too much on that because frankly I don't care for that part of it. It's more so how do you plan to convince people who haven't yet decided, but they want to be a nationalist of some kind, but they haven't decided like fully which direction they go that they associate with. How are you going to be like,
Well,
don't join the ethno-nationalists, join the civic nationalists. Come
Okay,
on, we're not crazy.
why labels though? Why do you need labels? I'm just a bit confused because
Oh,
I
it's
feel like
just the current divide at the moment.
yeah, yeah, I get that, but I guess that's my point is, why do we need to go around labeling people? I actually think that that's quite divisive,
Well,
but
that's
I
the
can
labels
tell
yeah.
they've
you,
used.
hang on, I can tell you why you label, because all the political theorists say you must be radical and radically simple. 90% of Aussies spend more time planning which cafe they're going to go to this Saturday than they will in 3 years of political research for the fate of their nation, their entire livelihood, the safety of themselves and their children. They will spend less time on that than choosing which cafe they're going to on a Saturday. So it has to be like tribal, and I've got Aussie Crusader here to explain this, and we don't have to do the debate to death, but I think that was a good demo of Freemasonry, so you're off the hook now. You've got Aussie Crusader in the room, can argue about his third
Oh yeah,
positionist stuff,
we can
and
do that
we
all
can just
again.
open the floor back up. But that was a good model there. It is like talking between the two of us. It just gets people a little more structured and a little more serious, and so that was a good test balloon, and I think it works well that we just structure. I guess people read the temperature of the room and they act more serious when they hear serious. Whereas if all they hear is it come in a Jerry Springer space, then they just go, well, this is a fucking free for all. I'll just fucking spurg out and then punch out.
I
So
can't
thanks,
handle
Zed.
spaces like that. I can't like I go into some spaces and I can like
That's what
I
it feels
barely
like
can
so
speak and I get kicked off. Like I raise my hand politely because I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just want to be polite." And then they just like kick me off before I can even say something and I'm like and then you wait for like 10 minutes and usually like cuz of my job, I'm in and out of meetings, right? So I can't just wait around.
Pepe, sorry not to cut you off, but like something important, real quick. So the other day, Alpha, you kind of like represented what I was saying without me being there, and I noticed that you were making a bunch of claims about Beck. So here she is. She can now say, as a response to what you were saying earlier, so we can hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So there you go.
Yep, I reckon, Beck, because you run rallies that encourage neo Nazis to turn up, you're racist and you want a white Australia. Is that true or false?
So hold on. I don't encourage neo-Nazis to come. However, nobody is ever banned. You, of all people who has a libertarian perspective, should surely understand that freedom of speech and freedom of movement is something that Australia needs to have, right?
Yeah, well, the libertarians expelled me, and now I'm one of Aussie Crusaders' fascists that believes in thug power wins the day. So what if I'm fascist and just
Whoa. You
culturally
have not been
police your
given the
rally?
fascist pass yet. Do not culturally appropriate my fucking shit, motherfucker. Okay.
Please.
I wonder why they removed you though. Is it
Who
because
that
maybe you
guy
like
is
to
a
talk shit?
fascist?
Well, Well, apparently you removed him because he's Jewish.
Where did I even remove you from, Alpha?
The New South Wales Libertarians expelled me from the party because I had a libertarian banner up in support of my own libertarian local council campaign on my X wall, and they said, "Take it down. You're hanging out in white power spaces. We don't like it." I said,
Okay,
"Isn't that
awesome.
cramping my
That's
freedom
awesome.
of speech?" And they went, "Bang, you're expelled the next day."
Okay, that's awesome. But where did I kick you out from for being Jewish?
No, it's your bloody better half there, or worse half, Jesse, was in a room with Lord Albert, and he just sat back laughing while Biaki made violent extremism threats. And I believe Jesse and Central Poster, the Aboriginal Führer, lurk in all sorts of weird Oswaffen spaces, and that you're basically just closet racists.
Well, you're basically a fucking liar because I did not kick you out from anywhere for being Jewish.
He didn't say that.
It's the company you keep.
It doesn't matter, Kurt. It does not fucking
to be
matter.
fair to Beck, Kurt, like you did say, Jesse and Beck kicked me out of the group chat for being Jewish.
And it doesn't matter anyway, Kurt. The fact is, if you're going to be a fucking honest, good person, then be a good, honest person. If you're going to sit there and talk shit, then don't cry when everyone fucking hangs shit on you.
I just want to make sure March for Australia is not racist.
Well, mate, you don't need to make sure March for Australia is anything or isn't anything.
There
Okay,
was a
you're not on
tranny
part of the
Vietnamese
organising
person
team.
there.
Well, exactly, in the open mic. Okay, so everyone wants to cry because I let neo-Nazis get up on the open mic. Okay, if you looked at the last Sydney event, you'll also see I let a freaking Southeast Asian up who, mind you, I was actually terrified of letting up because he's more racist than fucking anyone I've ever fucking met. And I let him up. I let him up and he fucking spoke and he was fine. So how is that racist?
Don't you think it would be wiser, like, to let the so-called neo-Nazis run their own movement? Because is it not polluting your message by having neo-Nazis come up and speak on a platform in front of all of the people that, I don't know,
I think
do you really want them all to get that
try
message,
and
or can they
just.
run their own little fucking
I'm
fringe
gonna
group?
try and get
Well,
Neo-Nazis
what
is
message?
fringe. It's not going to make
honestly, I
any.
kind of don't
No,
It's not
care.
going to
he
make any major
advocates not
moves.
excluding anyone, right? That's her whole message. And like the thing is, right? I'm personally against trannies, so I'm also against the idea of like that Vietnamese tranny. But like I can appreciate Beck's position because she allows all of them for the pursuit of free speech. She's unironically libertarian in that regards, and I don't understand why Kurt's so against her because Kurt's meant to be a libertarian.
Well, besides that, though, the NSN, members of NSN are in fact Australians. Okay, obviously there was one that's just recently been deported that he was on a visa and he's not Australian.
And
But the
also
large majority of them
Thomas Sowell.
are Australians, born and bred. Okay, they are against immigration on a different level. March for Australia is against mass immigration and our heritage and culture being freaking smashed and ruined, right? So long as they are getting up in the open mic and speaking freely on that subject, okay, the police told us if anyone says anything that is even close to hate speech, they will not hesitate to throw down and arrest. There were no arrests made. So obviously they said nothing wrong. Also, Chris Minns went on the freaking news and said, I will be reviewing all the footage of all the speeches to make sure there is no hate speech. If there is any, they will get arrested. We've had no door knocks. So as long as somebody is getting up and not preaching their other shit, what's the problem? Like, they're Australians. They deserve to have a voice in this fight.
Can I?
Okay, so I mean, let's say a nationalist. Let's say someone comes with their family, and they're there for all the right reasons. They see themselves as a nationalist or being drawn towards that movement, as in they want to cut down migration. That's one of their main concerns. Apart from that, they don't really align with that many other values. That these the extreme right wing would give you, like neo Nazis or fascists. Even if they're giving speeches
You don't
at
know
your
what a fascist
protest.
is, man.
No, listen to me though. Even if they're giving speeches at your protest, then say a week goes down the line, and then them same people that are giving speeches at your protest announce there's some sort of mischief when it comes to the extreme right wing fascism, then is that they're
Oh
not
my
going to
God,
put
all these
people off from
buzzwords.
that nationalist? Hey, I can play devil's advocate. I can ask a question, mate. Shut up, Ozzy. So is that not going to then put people off being linked in with a movement which is genuinely about migration, about just cutting down on migration, and now they don't want to be linked with fascists as such because this is how they're being portrayed.
The NSN are not
100%.
fascists; they're Nazis. There's a difference, but anyway.
Look, 100%, it might deter some people. It did, in fact, deter some people. We got a fair few complaints. We got a fair few compliments for letting them speak as well, though, because people do understand that immigration is something, and at the rates that it is in Australia at the moment, is affecting
Beautiful.
absolutely
I
everybody.
love that.
So a lot of people actually praise the fact that we had, including politicians, mind you, praise the fact that we allowed freedom of speech to take place and that we managed to control it in a manner that there were no trouble, no dramas. There were no, like, Sydney had no arrests made, like, for any kind of extremist violence or hate speech or anything like that. So the fact that we were able to coordinate and manage it on the day, I think, yeah, like, it's good that they got to have a voice in that respect.
And no, I mean,
Okay.
I know you've got, like, I don't know, people mixed in with the crowd of families that are genuinely there, because of the migration concerns, and now they're, having to mix it with, white power, fucking swastikas on your chest, kind of neo-Nazis. I mean, I'm not saying, I know I'm being extreme, but I just think that those two movements, when you've got the extreme far right, that really, if you kind of pandering towards the centre, or you're trying to convince people that, hey, we're not we're not a fascist movement. We don't want to be associated with the common conceptions of what Nazism is all about. Fair enough, Aussie Crusader might have a different perspective because he's very well researched, but the optics itself don't look good. And if anything, it's going to deter people away from that movement to actually capture into that movement. And you want to solve the immediate problem, which is migration. It's only going to slow that down. Let them do their own protest. There's the far right. Go and do your own protest. Have your swastika fucking marches, right?
I
And
get
then
that.
you can keep. Do you know what I'm saying? I do think it's counterproductive when you're bringing in the extreme of either side, and you're trying to then appeal to the centre. I think that's counterproductive for the movement. It's going to delay the problems.
Yeah, but to be fair, she didn't allow them to have any type of iron crosses or anything like that, and she also made sure their speeches or any all speeches in general was stayed on topic. I'm not saying she controlled the speech. I'm not speaking for Beck, but I'm saying if you look at all the speeches of that event, they didn't go Heil Hitler, or anything like that. They kept on message, and that was the whole point, right? You're allowed to be there unless under the premise that you are on message, right? That's why the gay Vietnamese tranny was there, because they were on fucking message. So you're just kind of, I feel like you're discrediting kind of the position she took. It was unironically a freedom position.
Can we
Well, that's
talk?
the thing. But also, hold on, like, if you're going to focus on 10 guys dressed in black in a crowd of 25,000 Australians, then I think that there's bigger problems that we've got to deal with in this world than just immigration, if that's such a big issue. But also, everyone loves to focus just on the NSN, right? The other speeches that we had conservative-minded speeches. We had more religion-focused. We had cultural-based speeches. We had, yes, extreme far right. We had right wing. We had ethno-nationalists, nationalists, civic nationalists, all on the speaker panel. As long as, like Aussie Crusader said, their message was in regards to ending mass immigration. They were allowed to go harder. They were allowed to go softer. But as long as they stayed floating around that subject, then they were allowed to speak. And we did that so that we did cater to every single person in the crowd.
But I mean,
And
the Achilles heel for these nationalist movements, in my opinion, is the mainstream media getting those, getting those snippets and getting those, I don't gotcha moments, and go, look, here's the guys all dressed in black, and that's what this movement was about. It wasn't about, and they'll conveniently ignore the families that were there, like they do with all the protests. They'll ignore the families that were there for genuine reasons, and they're genuine patriotic
Such a
people that
boring
aren't
subject to
extreme.
me.
But then the mainstream media then focuses on, look, this is just a bunch of fascists. And then that then turns people off with the national movement, who we're actually trying to bring over to this side. That then, the people that are now watching the mainstream media, that's all they're going to see. And they're going to get involved in another march. Do you know what I mean? You got your 10,000 people at the march. We've got 27 million people to appeal to in Australia, not just
Hitman,
10,000.
Hitman, I'm really confused on your point here. Like, because none of us can control the 4 in Australia. We have 4 or maybe quote unquote 5 mainstream media channels that promote these. We can't control what they view and what they put out. Like whoever turns up on the day. Like,
You
and if
don't
we
have to
turn them
hand them the story on a
away, it
plate.
makes a bigger scene.
No, I've got to go and do a job. But my point is, you don't have to hand them all of their ammunition on a plate. There you go. This is how you're going to discredit us. I mean, it just seems to me like a lot of hard work by good, honest people for good, honest reasons can be quite easily just shuffled under the carpet over, just for the sake of giving a fringe minority group, an open voice to broadcast to Australia, their ideologies, and then they then get that then gets conflated with all of their other opinions and their other views, which are too extreme for to bring the centre over to our side. I think it's more harmful to the movement. Let them have the fringe group. Do they deserve your stage at that point? What is it going to benefit you by giving them that voice on your stage? Probably nothing. It's only going to have a negative impact on the movement.
Okay.
Well,
So
that's just
Hang
my
on,
opinion.
Hambone.
I'm going to go and do a job.
Can we talk about
Hitman's got to
anything
go
else right
anyways.
now? Can we talk about
Yeah, well,
anything else?
no,
I think
Because
Alpha
I'm
wanted
no
to
gonna, I'm gonna
offense.
cut through. I'm gonna cut through because Hitman is going,
Hell
and I
yes.
wanted him to hear something while Beck is here too. Are you still there, Beck?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, are you there, Hitman? Is he there? Oh fuck. Anyway, he can.
Yeah, I'm here. I've always got my headphone. I'm always listening, even if
he
I've got to go.
okay. 1 minute. So Beck, I will break the fourth wall. I don't really think you're that bad, but I know now you admit to me, if I had DM'd you back at 11 a.m. and said, hey, Beck, can you come up and promote March for Australia at midday? You might have been
fuck
like,
it. I'm bored.
fucking Alpha, he's pretty small. Would you have actually turned up?
I'm bored. I don't care anymore. I couldn't give a fuck. Maybe I'll join back in. Fine. What the hell's going on? Leave. I fucking hate X. It's such a shit app. Site.
March for Australia, and
Okay, well,
eventually we'll get a proper
hold on
speaker.
then. Hold on. Let me fucking butt in then. If you want to be like Mick Amius or Australian Speaks, don't go in a space talking shit to lure somebody in. Send me a message. Say, Beck, I'd love for you to come in, talk about March for Australia, find out why you in fact allowed the NSN to speak in the open mic. And guess what, mate? I'm going to fucking come in. I'm an open
Okay.
book. You can ask me anything that you want, and I'll always give you as honest as possible of an answer.
All right, and I'll relay that to the group chat of about 6 of us. That look, if we want to be serious, we got to stop the name calling and the shit stirring, and actually do it properly. Now, whether the person accepts or not, that's a risk we're willing to take. So we have to change the style of that.
Should that not be intuitive, mate?
Well,
No,
you can
because
say that, but it
I've
wasn't in
invited
practice.
hang on, I've invited so many people properly, and they just fucking ignore you and leave you unread. So I'm just trying Plan B, and Beck's one of the few ones that actually will turn up. All the others are like, no, I'm too fucking cool for them, and so then you just fucking shit call them and say they're too fucking big, they're too good for us, and then they might turn up.
Or maybe if
I'm
you
curious.
if you said to them in text, "Hey, listen, you're going to be a topic of this discussion, so you can either come here and represent yourself, or I'm going to keep talking about it." But even then, I'd say if they're not there, you should still try your best to accurately represent it, right? Like, let's not act like Beck doesn't have a plethora
Look.
of right.
So
Like, you can literally,
he could.
hold on a second. You can go on Beck's profile right now, and she's already written a shit ton on this kind of topic. So, like, let's say she didn't arrive or whatever, you could have still been like, okay, Grok, can you please read her post and tell me what it says about her stance on things? And it would say, oh, she believes in absolute freedom of speech. She believes in pushing the message forward first. She believes in not tainting the thing. No foreign flags, none of this, right? Like, so you could have got the answers you seeked.
We might
You know
get
what I mean?
like
Yeah, 100%.
10
So, Ozzy, like,
seconds of
yes,
combo
you raise
after.
100% great point in direct regards to Beck, right? But Alfie, you alluded to the fact that you do this to other people that you host spaces about. I'm curious, who else do you sort of like try to lure in, or who else do you do this to?
I haven't done it lately, but I used to back in the day get some of the big hosts to turn up, and they never turn up. And so now I'm doing the Host of the Year award. That might slowly put them on notice that either you turn up, like Aussie Crusader said, give them forewarning, say we're going to talk about you, up to you if you turn up or not. That way you can play it both ways. You've invited them, but you also get to talk about them.
Well, no, it's. I mean, like I'm not disregarding. It's a fucking effective way to do it, right? But I'm just curious, who have you done it to in the past?
I can't even remember any big host. Look at the Host of the
Diligent.
Year award in the look at the Host of the Year award on the right of the nest. I've basically called out all of them, and even by putting that listing up, it's a way of calling them out.
This is so boring. But yeah.
Alpha, I'm still waiting for the Speaker of the Year list so we can figure out who talks the most.
I mean, it's obviously me, right? Like, let's be real here. Like, there's no question at all about who is the master debater.
I could
Yes, the
challenge
master
you.
debater.
I could challenge
Ozzy,
you on that one.
I don't even think you love the sound of your own voice. I just think you love the sound of people arguing with you.
Oh, like I'm a masochist or something.
Yeah, you know what I think? And you know what I think? I don't give a fuck what you think.
So,
No.
hold on. Can I just add another point in to make maybe people like Hitman or other people that are thinking this same way as him make them realize like what the alternative actually is? So, in a crowd of 20 to
This might be
25k
the only
people,
benefit we're getting out of this whole
Australian,
thing.
straight up Aussie freaking bogan types, and I do not mean bogan in a negative way because my people are bogans. Imagine, so okay,
She's right.
despite what people want to believe or despite what the media thinks, those guys in black got a fucking round of applause. I was actually shocked at how many people were cheering them. Like it blew my mind. Like I was like, holy shit. So people have a lot more respect for them than what I thought. Now, if you get them forcibly removed in a crowd of 20,000 Australians that are fed up with Australia and have had enough of the way our government and police treat people, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, so if they get violent, which 9 times out of 10, if you guys have seen arrests that have taken place in protests on the streets in Australia, it normally gets violent. It's not just an easy, I'm going to put handcuffs on you and walk you away kindly and nicely. It's normally, I'm going to throw you down on the ground, stomp on your neck, freaking break your arm almost, and violently arrest you. That's how it normally goes down. So imagine what's going to happen to the 20k onlookers that are like, oh my God, there's a fight. Fuck the police, blah, 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 blah. You're going to end up with an all-out fucking riot on the streets, okay? We do have kids there. We have families and kids and mums and dads there. Imagine the poor children viewing that freaking happen and that shit going down. Not only that, it'll then bring in a whole range of new laws for protesting. So you've got to look at it from all angles. Is it better to try and make the day run as smoothly as possible without any dramas? Or is it better to forcibly get somebody removed that, in fact, isn't doing anything wrong in that moment just because you want to look good in the media?
The
And now,
irony is, like,
just
Hitman,
to
like,
hang on,
if you go down the road she just said
Ozzy.
there, right? You know, that will actually embolden the NSN. It will actually give them more members. Like,
Well,
it'll be the best thing for them if something like that happens. So, like, if you're taking an approach of, okay, well, I don't want to support these guys, then that is definitely not the way to go, right? To basically
that's
martyrize them.
so Ozzy, right? Like that's fucking it's very curious, and I personally agree with that sort of outlook on this. And so, just to put in clarity for Hitman, right? The first March for Australia, this is where all of these speeches happened, right? And the second March for Australia, like there was varying political opinions on this. There were varying public opinions on these guys speaking, and just to clarify that we could only have a purely grassroots movement of the working man class where every man could be able to speak. The NSM were directed to not attend the second march.
It's kind of
Okay.
a catch-22, isn't it? Because the tricky part is, when does a peaceful protests turn into just fascist arrests? And when does,
Can we
you
stop
know,
fucking using this word? It's really low IQ.
no. But hear me out, right? Because I am all for protesting, right? But here in America, these protests too do turn violent, and thank
Well,
goodness
okay,
they
then
usually try not to spark it up any higher than that.
so like
But
I,
the problem with let me finish, man. The problem with violent protesting is that it does call for heavier law enforcement, but then heavier law enforcement can also turn protesters more wild. It's kind of like a snowball effect, man. And I believe in peaceful protesting. I believe in law enforcement arresting you if you're being a fucking dumbass and like hurting people or starting fires and all that stuff. Um, but it's not like there's a simple solution to this.
Well, that's the thing as well. So if you, I don't, yeah. So if you're looking at just the first protest where the NSN were in every state, right? Like I said, despite what people want to say about Sydney, Sydney had the least dramas. So in South Australia, in Adelaide, somebody tried to cut their mic. That caused outrage. People were going fucking mental. They were screaming. Police were getting involved. Fights were almost breaking out. It was a chaotic mess. Then, if you look at Queensland, so Queensland refused to entertain them as well. That's their own choice. However, because of that, they had the NSN in the crowd starting chants that they weren't happy with, that they thought were unsavory. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with send them home and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. Once again, freedom of speech. NSN supporters then turned on the Brisbane organisers and were flooding their socials um, with harassments and complaints and all of that stuff. Melbourne had no organiser. NSN did step up on the ground on the day, which we've all seen and witnessed. And Melbourne, let's be real, was going to be a shit show no matter who was fucking in charge, whether it was organised by March for Australia or whether we had put it as we did, which was no organiser. Um, but Sydney gave freedom of speech and had no trouble breakout. There was a bit of booing, there was a bit of cheering, but this is the other thing that people have to look at. Like if we look at what happened around the nation, there was trouble in every single major city except Sydney, because you've got to
don't
find a way
count
to
out
make it work.
WA.
Well, WA, I can't remember what they had. They didn't have many issues either. That's the thing, and that's
No,
why
we
I
had
forget them.
literally no issues.
What about Tasmania? I never hear about them. I actually
Okay,
don't.
actually, yeah. So Tasmania did
You want to
have
hear about
one
cousins
NSN
fighting
speaker.
cousins?
Well, I think they had one NSN speaker, and everyone turned their back and booed them, and so they got the hint and dropped off themselves.
No
And this is
way. I
the
would have thought
thing.
Tasmania would be like. That's actually interesting. What the fuck?
Yeah, well, this is the thing though. So they were given the opportunity in Tasmania. The crowd didn't like it. The crowd booed, and they took the message, got the message, and jumped down. So I think that's another thing to look at. Like if you give them the opportunity, they're either going to get booed or cheered. And I think that that's a better way for the. I think the crowd shutting them down is a better way to go about it than us as organisers shutting free speech down.
Yes, essentially, what these guys do is they respond to how the crowd reacts, right? And
Exactly.
Alpha,
because
what you got for us,
what
bro?
they do is they look for a crowd reaction. So if however the crowd reacts is their people, and if they're not their people, they will walk away.
Exactly. I think that's a better way to do it as well. Public opinion is what matters for any group. So you may as
Like
well
a
hear
true
out what the public
democracy.
thinks.
Well, there is an argument to be made that is actually true democracy.
Yeah, literally, that's unironically true democracy.
Well, it's more technically mob rule, right? Which I guess
But that's
democracy
what
kind of is.
democracy is, mob
Alpha, I
rule.
It
don't
is.
know. Yeah, you're right. Alpha, I don't know if you wanted to if you meant to put your hand up or whatever, but another variable we can't forget here, which this happens in America, guys. These designated locations for protests literally have pallets of bricks being dropped off at them. Not to mention the evidence for like these sleeper cell type violent protesters that are there that may or may not be in our three-letter agencies that are designed to spark violent protests. Why would they do that?
No,
That
so
happens
Lux,
all the time, man.
Lux,
Police have done that since the days of protest. Like that's always been what
yeah,
police do.
it's the three-letter agencies are obviously like I know the pallets of bricks being dropped off on street corners. This in the US in the Floyd riots, like it doesn't exactly happen the way that the Americans would picture it happens in Australia.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, no offense, Yank. You things are a little bit more chill here. Like maybe not chill, but in comparison, they're much more chill. We don't have
Well, it kind
guns.
of makes sense
Oh,
to a state a little bit. Am I back? Sorry.
The real quick, the if you look at the January 6th thing, the FBI even admitted to having like a couple hundred agents in the crowd. So like, yeah,
They
yeah.
let the motherfuckers into the building, dude. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
But
now
pretty sure all
now
those
now the
agents were
later
the Proud Boys.
now the later stages of the investigations have come out, and they've actually admitted the agents that were captured on CCTV that have opened the fucking doors for J6 fucking rioters that were imprisoned for over 12 months. They were FBI agents.
right,
So
and it kind of makes
horrific.
sense, right? Because here in America, I don't think we're quite at the level of control, and that you know that our friends in the more eastern nations kind of are under. So it makes sense that they maybe would try to spark a little bit more chaos in their streets, because in that way they could have. This is exactly what I was talking about when I first started talking, right? Violent protests equal more violent arrests, and it equals more laws made, and it equals more power, more control.
I'm curious, Lux. Like, I'm not sure how much you are truly plugged into the current FBI outcomings and the current DOJ um, policies and their own agents. But do you believe that the same sorts of agents that instigated these sorts of riots under the Biden administration and others are still in power within your internal three-letter organizations?
I would assume so. I mean, there seems to be, well, but it's like who's blaming who, right? Because Pam Bondi claimed that they were hiding all the Epstein documents, that the FBI went rogue, right? And in New York, they were hiding all the Epstein documents. That's what she said. But then at the same time, like a few days later, she also said, now I have them all on my desk, right? And then a few days later, she was going, what documents? I didn't say I had documents, right? So it's like, who the fuck do you believe, man? I have no clue, dude.
So, and this is a curious thing, Lux, is on, and I almost think that it's very much perceivable that on the government shutdowns, right? So you've had the government shutdowns, you've had huge amounts of federal funding cut, you've had huge amounts of um, federal workers cut out. Do you not think that a lot of these people would have been routed out amongst these like federal cutouts? Or
Time
do you
will
think
only
that, like
tell.
obviously some of them are going to slip through,
what is
right?
going
But
on?
do you not think that like some potentially the entire purpose of
I
this was
feel
to
like I'm
rout
falling
them out?
asleep to this.
I'm not going to pretend to know one way or the other, man. I mean, I'm getting very um, I'm getting very skeptical about it. The DOJ. Pam Bondi said something really terrible a couple months ago that she had to walk back, saying that like hate speech isn't good, and that if you do hate speech, we're going to come after you. I'm paraphrasing exactly what she said,
That
and
was
that
very
blew the right
funny.
up. We were like, what the fuck is she talking about? And she had to walk that back. So I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to your question, Hambone. I just don't. Time will only tell.
No, it's good, man. I just wanted to get a citizen's opinion on thoughts on what happened. Um, Spirit Straight.
Hey, brother. How are you?
Hey, just quickly, I want to note that Beck is actually top 4 in the hosting stakes, and Lemon Drop down there.
Alright, I'm done now. Fuck it, I don't care anymore. I don't care. Fuck it. It's so boring. Um, well, this was just a test anyway on my part as well, because I've been having internet issues at my new place. So at least I now know that this stuff works. Cool. Probably going to leave it at that.